Hey y'all. Hi. It's happening. This is one of the most exciting videos I've ever gotten to make. I have had the privilege and total pleasure of developing some makeup products with Salt New York, which is the perfect makeup brand for me to collaborate with. It's an independent brand that makes absolutely beautiful products that I have loved for a long time. And the founder of Salt New York, Kiki, originally approached me about this because she wanted to work with me specifically on manifesting my dream of grungy, desaturated makeup shades that bring life to the face, but in that kind of dusky, sexy way. Like visually effortless, lived in, feels organic to the skin and the body, feels like a natural fit for your everyday life, but still has that satisfying, like shadowy, sensual quality of like a grainy 90s beauty photo shoot. That was the inspo. I'll put up some pictures of like my Pinterest inspiration board. As many of you know, I have been so frustrated over the years by how bright and primary so many lip and cheek products are in makeup. And I know that a lot of you across every skin tone are also tired of makeup always looking bright orange or bright pink on you, even when it looks nude to you or looks brown in the pan or in the bullet. So Kiki and I worked together on this. It was magical. But here's the deal. The launch is today. There are 12 shades. There are 12 products in the launch. And I want time in this video to swatch each product and to give you a full sense of each shade, each formula, all of the colors together, the shade names, everything. So I'm going to eschew the rest of the gushing about Salt New York specifically that I would like to do, the giddiness about the development and the creative process that I would like to share, and really focus on properly introducing the collection today. So this video is going to be mostly business. But in the future, I'll share some more relaxed content that includes like the quirks of the development process, revelations along the way. Kiki is a genius with formula and color, and we are both totally obsessive about color. So we really found partners in crime in each other when it came to tinkering, honoring nuance, trying again, and following through until we were both really, really happy with the final product. It has been a joy and an honor, frankly, from start to finish. And I cannot believe that I'm saying this, but even with that being the case, I am happier with the final products than I expected to be. They all turned out better than I hoped to dream. And before I forget, my discount code, which always works on Salt New York for 10% off, does work for the products on this launch. So if you use my code, which is Hannah Louise, you will get 10% off of your entire order from Salt. I'll put the code at the top of the description box down below. And of course, I will link everything in the description box below. So stay tuned. Keep an eye on Kiki's channel because we filmed a video together, kind of telling the story for her channel. It's not up yet, but it'll be there soon. Today, I'm just going to dive into what's here. So let's get into the meat of the video. Okay, these are the products. In a way, it's 3 quads. In another sense, it's 3 versions of the same quad. It's just that one is for lighter skin tones, one is for medium, and one is optimized for lovely melanin-rich skin. That's this one. And I'll hold this up as an example. Each quad contains 3 lip and cheek products. So 3 color cosmetics that work beautifully on the cheeks and also work beautifully on the lips. The formula for the lip and cheek is not the same as the standard Salt New York lip and cheek formula. It's a little bit stiffer, a little bit more matte. It is a little less emollient, if you're familiar with that, but very soft and nourishing on the lips. I cannot believe how much I love wearing it on the lips. So it's a new formula for Salt that Kiki and I worked on together because this was my vision. And she was so amazing at being willing to just create from the vision as we went. So in each quad, there are 3 colors in that formula. And then in each quad, there is a highlight, which is also a new formula for Salt, also extraordinary. And I'll get to the highlight in a bit. I'm holding up the lightest quad and then the deepest quad. In each quad, the 3 color cosmetics are all essentially brown, but they're browns with 3 different powerful undertones. One of them is more of a chocolate, but it's like that gray chocolate that I've always dreamed of. At least in the lightest quad is really that gray milk chocolate. One of them is more of a neutral, quote unquote nude, nude, whatever that's going to mean. But again, neutral, desaturated, kind of a grayed out nude. And then the third is more of a grayish brown. So across the 3 quads, those 3 undertones are contiguous. They are all truly desaturated, but they also all have the pigment levels and the undertones perfectly calibrated so that they work for the skin that they're designed for. And I have to say, even though looking at the pans is great because they are very beautiful to look at, they all look a bit different on the skin because skin color is a very important contributor to the color of the product when it's on the skin, the way that it looks on the skin. Kiki knows that. And when she was developing these, especially when she was scaling the colors to suit different skin tones, she was working with models in the Salt studio to make sure that she was designing the colors according to how they would look on the skin and not just according to how they look in the pan. So of course I will link the website with all of the product photography and swatches on all different skin tones. And I'll do my best to show you up close how everything actually looks as a substance and not just as a flat color. So I'm going to go through color by color, like undertone by undertone, sharing the light, medium, and deep version of each color concept of each color, and then the highlights. First up, this shade is called Teasel. And this is like the grayed out milk chocolate of my dreams. I'm always saying gray milk chocolate, gray milk chocolate. What I want is gray milk chocolate. This is gray milk chocolate. This is actually what I have on my lips today. And you can see it doesn't look like milk chocolate on me, right? It looks like a pretty neutral nude that's natural to me. Not too pigmented, not too dark. It's makeup. It's adding color to my face, but it really just looks like my lips, but better. I also have it on my cheeks today. And it really just looks like my cheeks, but better. My skin, but better. That's what a gray milk chocolate does for someone very pale olive, as opposed to what a really bright color does, which is to make my lips look really orange. So many times I've reached for what I thought was going to be a nude and it looks orange. When I reach for a gray milk chocolate, especially one that isn't overly pigmented, because Kiki calibrated the level of pigment to work with the skin tone. When I reach for a gray milk chocolate, then I look like I'm wearing a nude or a slightly chocolatey nude. So that's Teasel. I feel like the brown in it, which is slightly cool toned, but not enough to make it really edgy because we kind of went there with one of the other undertones. It's just a little edgy, right? It's a little bit edgier than the center shade, which is the kind of nude. And I feel like this is the perfect one to start with because there's such a big difference between how it looks in the pan and how it looks on me. On me, you can see it is ever so slightly edgy, but very, very, very natural makeup. And it's something that is something I have never had, right? That is something I've never really had, especially in something that's not super emollient, not like a chapstick, not, you know what I mean? Something that's like real makeup, but really, really nourishing. It is so satisfying to have dreamed of this for years and to have been talking about it for years. And now finally to be able to have it and wear it. The equivalent of the gray milk chocolate in the medium quad is called Orchid. And when I say orchid here, I mean that brown orchid. You know those beautiful brown orchids? I named this color after a brown orchid. I love wearing this shade as well as a lip color, and I will show that to you. I also like it as a blush, but because it's calibrated for medium skin tones, it ends up looking a little bit more like blush on me rather than like my cheeks, but better. It looks the way that most blushes look on me. And when I work with it, I'm sort of dealing with what I usually deal with most blushes. However, when I saw the makeup artist, I was there for some of the photo shoots for the swatch photography and the website. And I saw the makeup artist applying this to Chrissy, the model, one of the models who's modeling this on the website. It blew my mind because on her, it looks the way that Teasel looks on me. Kiki absolutely nailed it. I just couldn't believe it. The way that it changed, the way that this shade looked, like on me, it's a pretty rich color, but the way that it looked on her, it had that sort of edgy, super desaturated quality that Teasel has on me. So it's like this shade is, Orchid is to Chrissy as Teasel is to me. And then that shade in the deepest quad is Tenmoku. And again, a stunning vampy color that I also love to wear, especially on my lips. This entire quad I love as lip color if I want a punchier color for me. But on someone with much deeper skin than I have, this is going to be the equivalent of Teasel. Very much my lips, but better. My lips, but with that sort of slightly desaturated, edgy quality. Tenmoku is a glaze for ceramics. I studied ceramics a lot in college and I absolutely love this glaze. I was so glad that there was a color that worked with it as a shade name. I just love how sort of variegated the richness is in this color when it is applied to ceramics. It sort of gets more matte towards the rim of something or towards the edge of something, but it has that shiny depth you'll be able to see in the imagery. So those are the three more brown toned colors. Next column over, here we have, my friends, finally, after all these years, may I present to you Old Gum. This is it. And it's so interesting. It doesn't look as gray in the pan as I imagined it would, because what matters is how it looks on the face. And we worked on this for so long. There were so many iterations of Old Gum. And again, I'll talk about that in another video. I always imagined it would look gray. But what I really wanted from this was a nude that kind of makes it look like I'm not wearing makeup. Like wakes up my face, especially on the cheeks. I particularly wanted Old Gum for the cheeks. I wanted a blush, like a cheek product that I can put on when I've done some makeup and I'm starting to look a little bit two-dimensional, right? Because I just need a little sculpting. I need to bring something back to my cheeks. But I just want it to be sort of a shadow of color, not a rich punch, not something that I have to blend and sheer out. And that's not something that I have to be afraid to use because it's going to overwhelm my face. Not something with a really strong orange or red undertone or pink that's going to kind of clash with me and clash with what I'm wearing. Just something to put like a stain of shadow of my skin onto my cheeks to bring it back to life in an earthy way, in a slightly sculpted way, but really just a light touch, something very natural. That to me is Old Gum, the like desaturated, grayed out nude that I have never been able to find. And this is what it looks like. Isn't it amazing? Look at it on my finger. The shade that started it all, Old Gum. And I have gotten such a thrill out of seeing the way that Old Gum changes when it is calibrated for other skin tones. Look at this. This is Oyster Fig. I literally cannot with this. I do not love it more than Old Gum, but it's hard for me to keep from saying that. Part of me wants to say that. I love it more than Old Gum because it still has that edge of desaturation. Like what Kiki was doing when she was scaling these colors for different skin tones, she was making them as desaturated as she could, as gray as she could, without going over across the line into being ashy or looking weird or looking gray. When I saw this color go on to Chrissy, I pretty much like was slain, came back to life, and then was slain again because it was Old Gum on her. That's the thing. Stunning with that slight softness, that slight edge of almost like a putty neutrality. That's what I get from Old Gum. And that's what this was on Chrissy. I called it Oyster Fig because it's like a fig. It's a figgy color, but it's like a special shade of fig. And so I was reaching for an adjective that was appropriate to modify the word fig. And the adjective I settled on is oyster. So it's like, what shade of fig is it? It's an oyster fig. It's an oyster shade of fig. Because oyster is a name used in color, right? We use oyster to talk about kind of a funky gray or like a funky creamy white, you know? That is like the modifier for fig. This is Oyster Fig. It's an oyster shade of fig. I love that in my graph where the 9 of them are laid out, it's in the middle because I really do feel some type of way about it. I also love wearing this one as a lip color. Again, it doesn't have that sort of disappearing my face but better quality that Old Gum has on me because it's a little stronger, but it is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. And let us now talk about Corduroy. Corduroy is Old Gum for the richest, deepest skin. Again, retaining all of those qualities, but calibrated all of the dials, twisted, calibrated enough so that it's still incredibly wearable, natural, my lips but better, my lips but ever so slightly edgier. I think this is eminently wearable. Again, like this is wearable by anyone. This is like the shade. When I have found lipsticks that are similar to this, I don't think there's anything quite like this because Kiki and I did so much tinkering and so much innovation and so much like slightly left of that, slightly right of that when we were calibrating these colors. I don't think there's anything like this, especially again, that slight putty quality, you know what I mean? But in terms of the depth, when I have found colors that are like this, often it's like that's been my favorite lipstick for the season, but then I have to really water it down or make it a really thin layer, mix it with concealer, blot it a lot in order for it to work for my skin. You know what I mean? So it kind of reminds me of that, like some of those near misses. Old Gum in the light quad, it's like, it's that, but make it already perfect for me. And this is like that, but make it perfect. Actually, for anyone. Anyone can wear it. I'm fully obsessed with Corduroy, the deep 3 shades, Tenmoku, Corduroy, and Cantor. Way more than I expected to be. It's one of the things that really surprised me. Let us move on to the third column, my favorite right now, Waxwing. This is my most used. This isn't actually I should have had it up here. The one that I've had for like months. My samples that I've been digging into are completely wrecked. These are like pretty new, but I wanted them to look pretty for camera. In my quad that I've had for months, Waxwing it's like I've almost hit pan on it. Y'all, I have been wearing these on camera every time over the past several months that someone's been like, oh my gosh, what's on your lips? What's on your cheeks? I want to know what's on your lips and cheeks. And I haven't answered in the comments. It's because I've been wearing these, and a lot of times it's been Waxwing. Are you kidding me? I, as you may remember, have hunted for a perfect greige, a dupe for an iconic greige, as you may remember. There is this sort of like brown purple greige nude of my dreams that is elusive and also is too dark, right? Because it's not for the very pale. It's too dark. So this is that, but for the very pale. Perfect for me. And because of how it sits in the formula, amazing on the cheeks. The first time Kiki saw me put this on, she was like, on my cheeks. I was like putting on my cheeks. She was like, that looks unbelievable on you as a blush. And I was like, I can't stand it. I literally can't stand it. So this has been my most worn, honestly, because I've been really into that. This is the edgiest column, right? So we've moved into the edgiest. We had like the milk chocolatey, we had the central sort of old gum. Now we are moving into the slightly edgier undertone, okay? Waxwing, which I just love because look at this bird. Look at this bird. I'm very inspired by the natural world. I always go back to nature. And I was just I wanted us to have that feeling, that just feeling of like touching real beauty, like color. The reason color is so beautiful is because of nature. The reason we love color is because we want to be in nature, so it's like wanting to own a color, which you can't really, because color is just in the world. But that having and wearing of color, to me, it's like a way of wearing what we love the most, what resonates about nature and the human body. Like that's it. So that's kind of why I was looking there for these shade names. And I saw a picture of this bird, a Waxwing. Look how it's got like sort of like a blushy color that bleeds to taupe to gray. And right in the middle somewhere is like this shade. I cannot stand it. It's so good. This is just my dream. Dream lip color, dream blush color, the perfect, super desaturated, low pigment greige Waxwing. The medium version of this is called Aniseed. And here it is right here. This is another one that I think also might have been my favorite on Chrissy. Is that correct to say? I really loved Oyster Fig on Chrissy. I mean, I loved all of them, but this column, it's like you really start to get into the sculpting, the shadow, that depth, that like snatched 90s supermodel depth, and I really saw that, especially with this on Chrissy's cheeks when I was at Salt for the photo shoot. I really want to it has been so hard not to put every single one on my lips. I'm going to film that swatch footage separately. I just don't have time to do that right now, but you see, it is exactly that, right? It's just the deeper, richer version, but still desaturated, still like with an edge of taupe, like a brown with an edge of like almost like a purplish taupe that is at a pigment level and with undertones enough that make it work without going ashy on medium skin. And then the same is true of, it's hard to pick favorites, but this is definitely one of my favorites, Cantor. So Cantor lily is the name of that really blackened purple lily, or it's one of them. One of the kinds of lilies that is, when you think of like a black lily, but it's also purple, a Cantor lily. But Cantor also means like a singer, you know what I mean? Someone who cants. Look at it. So this shade, a Cantor lily, is like that blackened purple. This shade, I think it's hard to see how much it is that. Again, with a slight edge of putty and that shadow, that really snatched shadowy quality. I hope I can maybe put in some pictures, but when I saw this on Philippe at Salt, I was like, that is it. That's the sculpting. That's the like Naomi Campbell in the 90s sculpt. That is also Cantor. You know what I mean? That is also like the curve of the Cantor lily. It's so good. And this, when I was playing around with all of these colors, the first time I had all of them at once, and I was just like trying all of them on my cheeks, on my lips, and just getting to know them really, really well. At the end, when it was all over, and I was like, and I was ready to go about the rest of my day. This is what I wore on my lips as my lipstick that day. It was so good. And later I was talking to Joe. He was like, your lips look really good. I was like, it's Cantor. So that is beautiful. So those are the 9 colors. Those are my 9 babies. Let us move on to talk about the highlights. So today when I was putting my makeup on, finishing my makeup for this video, I put Nimue, which is the lightest highlight, on all over my eyes and cheeks. And what I did was what I like to do with it, which is I used the big brush that I've used to put it onto my cheeks, on my eyes, and kind of buffed it in. I like to get a really, really thin layer. You can apply it more thickly to the lids. I'll do it a little bit now. It's quite creamy when you bust through it. It is very satisfying. It's very tactile. Here's the thing. Highlights that I love tend to either be very wet look or have that glazed donut quality. This I feel like kind of does both, sort of everything in between. You can really see it's giving glazed donut on my cheeks because I put Teasel on top of it. So it's sort of mixed with it and melted it into my skin. But it's really giving more wet water on my lids because it's that very, very thin layer. I will sometimes go in and put a thicker application of it right on the brow bone and really get that gleam. I find that if I put a very thick application of it all over my lids, then it will start to gather a little bit. It's really sturdy on the cheeks, especially for something that is so creamy and looks so wet. You know, it's actually amazing. And Kiki found this, she really went the distance. She found this obscure, innovative ingredient. I'll let her tell you about it, but there were so many versions of this and they were beautiful, but I'm doing what I said I wasn't going to do. I'm telling the story. I need to focus on the colors. Anyway, it's been a long road. The highlights took a long time to develop. What I'll do is I'll put a thicker layer underneath the brows and keep that very, very thin glaze on the lids. And then what I find is that it doesn't crease on the lid. Maybe after 6 hours, it'll get a little line. It's very wearable as a sheen on the lids. But let me tell you about, all right, my dream. So Salt New York already has some really beautiful highlighters that I really love. And so I was like, what can we do that isn't that, but that still fits with everything? My inspiration, my dream is of a highlight that has the exciting qualities of those iridescent, when those iridescent soap bubble highlighters were really trending and there were all of these highlighters. There were all of those highlighters that looked enchantingly like the surface of a soap bubble, really, really wet and sort of swirly and dreamy. And I wanted them so bad. I would see them and I would see the way they looked swatched and I would see them gleaming. And I was like, that iridescent sort of color shifting quality, I wanted on my face so badly. But they always flipped from purple to blue to green. So it's you'd put it on and you'd have that amazing soap bubble look, but then you would look like you're going to a festival. And I just didn't want that in my everyday, right? I didn't want iridescent pink. I didn't want blue. I didn't want anything like that. So when I was talking with Kiki about this, I was like, can we make a highlight that has that exciting quality of iridescence that seems to shift, that is sort of multiplicitous? You know what I mean? That has like a visual texture, but not texture on the skin, but just nuance and sort of sparkle on the water. Again, the way that humans crave to see sunlight glinting off of the water. Something that's serving sunlight on water, but that doesn't have a color flip. No pink, no green, basically sort of shifting from champagne to silver to gold, but all very wearable shades that blend in with your skin. And I also wanted it to be taupe, but also taupe. That, but taupe. Iridescent, but make it taupe and make it like Lake of Shining Waters from Anne of Green Gables. I kind of thought I would call it Lake of Shining Waters and then I just didn't go there. I ended up naming all 3 highlighters after the Lady of the Lake from Arthurian legend because it feels to me that it is a lot about water, how it has all of these textures, the thing that's amazing about this highlight is that it looks wet sometimes and then when you turn your head, it disappears. It will just disappear. It's with all this light, I can't show it to you, but I'll show you in other footage, but it's one of those highlights that it's so natural to the skin that it's it will only shine when you're in the right light. In direct sunlight, you get that wild, wet gleam that just makes your skin look so healthy. But then if you turn your head, it disappears. So you don't end up looking like a balloon. You know what I mean? When the cheeks are just gleaming from every direction and you just, your cheeks look greased up and it makes your face look really, it doesn't do that. It just shines wetly when the light catches it. Of course, here sitting in front of you, the light's catching it all the time, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. So it does that. And if you shine an artificial light directly on it, then you get that Lake of Shining Waters, glimmer. If you swatch it in direct sunlight, you get that delicious sort of sparkle, but the reflex, the micas are not so present that you have glitter all over your face. So it's I wanted to strike a delicate line. We were threading the needle between all of those qualities that I wanted a highlighter to have. And I wanted it to be really exciting also. Just have a quality, a tactile and visual quality that is different and makes you kind of just want to put it on and put it on and put it on, That was the goal, and Kiki really stuck with me. We really manifested it through a lot of hard work and a lot of versions. And here's what we have. So the lightest shade is Nimue. I couldn't stop thinking there's this poem. Oh no, Hannah, this is what you said you wouldn't do. Briefly, poem by Richard Wilbur, Merlin Enthralled. I'll link it below. Merlin Enthralled by Richard Wilbur. It's about a moment in part of Arthurian legend when Merlin has been enthralled by the Lady of the Lake, or maybe the daughter of the Lady of the Lake. I think in that poem he uses the name Ninian, which is the Lady of the Lake has like so many names. And a lot of them start with N, but I went with 3 that have very different structures and like instead of like Nimue, Nineveh, and Ninian, which would have been confusing, we went with Nimue, Sibyl, and Vivian. So this is Nimue, this is Sibyl, and this is Vivian. And I think you can see in this light how desaturated they all are. In the pan, they can look quite warm, especially Sibyl and Vivian. In the sunlight, they can look like they are quite warm. They are all essentially as taupe as they can be while still working for the skin for which they are each designed. They are as taupe as they can be while still working for the skin for which they are designed. That was my dream for this, okay? So they're as much like the neutrality of water itself, right? Color-wise, undertone-wise, as they can be. And I think you can really see that here. I wanted those sort of putty undertones that would make it cohesive with the rest of the palette and that would make them different from other highlighters on the market. Because so often you see like a light, medium, and deep highlight like this and they are just like cream color, gold, bronze. You know what I mean? This is not that. This is not that. This is like sheer taupe, sheer, it's almost like Teasel. The medium highlight is almost like sheer Teasel, that sheer milk chocolate. And the deep highlight is almost like, it's almost like a slightly golden version of Oyster Fig or something. You know what I mean? Like they really are cohesive with the palette. And they're also really sheer. Kiki showed me, and I don't have it here with me, but she showed me a swatch of, they're so creamy that they pick up a lot on the finger and you can't see how sheer they are. But I'll try to insert some footage, a swatch of Nimue next to Pearl, which is the other salt highlight. It's just significantly more sheer. There's just a lot of clear base in all 3 of these highlights. So all of the 9 color cosmetics I'm obsessed with for me. Like I've been using all of them as lip colors and blushes, and I am so glad to have all of them. With highlight, I do feel like you just need the one that is calibrated for your skin. I think a lot of people will be able to wear both Sibyl and Nimue, and a lot of people will potentially be able to wear both Sibyl and Vivian, but each one is really designed to kind of hold down the fort for a certain range of skin tone. And that is why, one of the many reasons why you can add individuals to the quad that you choose. Because I wanted you to be able to buy a quad if you want, but then add, or to like potentially get like all 9 of the colors and then just the highlight. If you wanted all 9 of the colors, I didn't want you to be forced to also get all 3 of the highlights, because my dream palette would be like all 9 colors and Nimue, What I'll say is if you don't know, if this looks good to you, but you don't know what to do, like you don't know what you want, just get one quad. Right? Get one of the quads the way that they were designed, the way that they were intended, and don't stress about it. One of the things I love about Salt is that the makeup is so accessible. This is the kind of makeup that I cannot wait to like give to my mom. Like I cannot wait because she's going to be able to use it, especially with the pigmentation of the light quad being what it is. It is so effortless to use. It is so natural to the body. So if you're afraid of makeup, and this is true of everything that Salt New York makes, not just this, but everything, especially my other favorite product from them, the Sneaky Balm, which I'm also wearing today in N13, a truly pale olive, truly neutral shade. There's absolutely nothing like it on the market. If you're afraid of makeup, you will be able to approach this. Okay, so if that's you and you're just not sure, just pick one quad. If you're one of my makeup girlies out there and you know what's up and you know what you want and you want to mix and match, you want to curate for yourself, you can do that because that's how these are being offered. Because here's the thing. What I want to share with you, having had these in my possession, and especially the quad for my skin, the light quad, having had it and used it now for months, over the course of my long life trying makeup and my long YouTube career so far, reviewing makeup and testing a lot of makeup, once in a while, a shade range, like a range of blushes, for example, will have a shade that is approaching the level of neutrality and earthiness that will make it work for me. When that happens, I don't give get to pick the undertone. There might be one shade in a lipstick launch that is like close enough to Old Gum for me to be able to use it. But it's like, I don't get to choose whether I want it to be a little more brown. I don't get to choose between all of the colors. Like a lot of people who like super saturated colors get to choose. There's just one that's close enough. And then whatever undertone it is, I just have to use it. That's it. The pleasure of having this has been that all three of the colors, all three are those perfect neutral browns for me, but the undertones are slightly different. So on any given day, I can choose if I want to go in the edgier direction with Waxwing and have that slightly shadowy, sort of purpley quality, or I can choose if I just want to bring life to my face without adding color. I want that total neutrality. That's Old Gum. Or I can choose if I want that pale milk chocolate. They are all perfect. They're all perfect. So it gives me that choice and that variety from day to day, instead of it just being like there's a quad and you just use the same one over and over because it's the only one that works for you. So if you love brown, if you crave desaturated shades, if you crave workable cool tones, like wearable natural cool tones that really feel like they're of the body, the thing that's amazing about building the quads in the way that we intended them is that you have that luxury of choice that shouldn't be a luxury, you know? But there's just nothing like this. I've been testing makeup for a long time. In terms of color, saturation, formula, there's just nothing like this. It is any one of these shades, if I found it in the wild, would be a unicorn. And now we've made them all. So that is it. I'm over here worrying that I didn't say everything. I think the only remaining thing that I want to say has to do with color and product photography. In the inspiration images that I've created, I've done my best to capture the color as it performs, right? So if you look at the image for Aniseed, right? Or the image for Oyster Fig or Cantor that I've created, you see many different adjacent colors coming together to kind of make the color of the image and the vibe of the color. When you look at those and then you look at just the pictures of the pans or the pictures of the swatches on white, or even like the pan when you have it in your hand, it might not exactly be right. You know, it's this makeup, because it is so carefully calibrated to do what it does on the skin, it's just a little bit hard to show what it looks like. You know, it's a little bit hard to show what the colors look like. We're doing our best. I'm doing my best with models, with swatches in different skin tones on the Salt website, with these sort of emotional image collages that give it a holistic sense of how it works. And I just wanted to say that again, that the skin that the makeup is on is an ingredient in the color of the makeup. And we have been really focused on that end result and kind of reverse engineering from the way that we want it to look on people. The color itself it's meant to be lived in. Working backwards from the end result has been a dream way to create makeup. And I think that is why the colors have come out so extraordinary and so unlike other things that I've ever seen. But it ended us up with this interesting problem, which is that it's just a little bit hard to visually communicate the way they're going to look on you, you know? So I've done my best. I just want you to go into this, if you're going to look into it, if you're interested in buying these, knowing that, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to say this. This collection is limited edition, but it's not like there's limited stock now. They are not going to sell out today. It's not like that, because they will make them as long as the limited edition products are on the website. They will be making them as people are buying them. However, at the same time, these are not long-term permanent for Salt. We're not sure how long they will be on the site, like how long they'll be making it. Don't freak out. Don't overspend. My God, don't overspend, okay? But also don't put it too far on the back burner. And if you want other recommendations from Salt, my God, the Sneaky Balm, there's nothing like it. It's the best. I'm gonna go. Thank you for being here. I hope that this is fun for you. I hope it is fun to see what I came up with, to see how skillfully Kiki has executed the vision, and to kind of see like what it looks like when that makeup that I've been complaining that other makeup isn't like is real. Like, this is what that looks like, and what a thrill. So thanks for being here. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the East.